Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our discussion on life on the spectrum. I'm Abigail Gonzalez, and Angel Carmona is here. Wave your hand, Angel. and we are going to be doing this discussion together. And we talked about this a few weeks ago, and we talked about just our desire to share with people what life is like when you're living with a child that is on the spectrum. And because it's very different. It's different than, it's a different dynamic in your family. And what are some things that we can do with our oils and our wonderful doTERRA supplements alongside of all the other things that can be done to really help support our children? So Angel, why don't you just introduce yourself to us and tell us a little bit about your family?
Okay, I had to unmute myself. Okay, I am Angel Carmona. I am a stay-at-home mom. I have 4 children, and I'm going to give you the ages, and nobody freak out, but they're 5, 4, 3, and 2 years old, with my last 2 being 10 months apart. So just right there, that should give you a perspective of what my day is like. Like Abby, I love being a mom, and I'm really thankful that she introduced me to doTERRA a little over 4 years ago. And my oldest son, he got diagnosed a year ago, a little over a year ago, at the age of 4, which in the medical community is late. They usually get diagnosed around earlier, like 2 or 3. And so his therapies and stuff have started late, and so that's not problematic, but it's not ideal in their eyes. So he is kind of behind, but I'm just once we realized that he needed to get evaluated and he got diagnosed, I, like any mom, I cried. I went through my seasons. I think for like a couple of days, I was angry, I was emotional, I was just a plethora of emotions. And then I immediately just dove in to what autism was, or what life on the spectrum is like. And like any mom, I started reading blogs and books and just trying to find support groups. And so what I'm going to discuss tonight is just what I've researched and what is really, I feel, supporting him through this. And a lot of it is just a lot of trial and error. I mean, anybody who uses essential oils knows that one oil may work, another oil may not. But the beauty of it is that there are so many that can support our bodies in so many other different ways. And so for the first couple of months, it was just trying one thing and trying another. But I'm really excited to share with everyone tonight, and I'd hope that if one person walks away from this educated, that then we reached one person. So thank you for coming on tonight.
Awesome. Thanks, Angel. So what are some of your favorite resources that have really helped you learn more about what's going on with Gideon?
Okay. Well, the first one, like I said, when I first found out he was diagnosed, I immediately went out and bought books. And the first book I bought was this one. It's called The Conscious Parent's Guide to Autism. And this really lays out what autism is, what your child needs, therapies, things like that. What the spectrum, it explains the spectrum, because the spectrum is so wide. I mean, there's a low functioning end where a child can be nonverbal. They can just be totally dependent on the parent. And then there's the opposite end where a child is high functioning, where my child is, and he is still slightly independent, but he has other difficulties with other things. And so I think I read this like 3 times in 1 year, because the medical terms are just too much sometimes, and I don't understand them sometimes. So I really use that book a lot. And then the second one, this was actually recommended to me by a friend, but it's 10 Things Every Child with Autism Wishes You Knew. And I noticed when he first started, before he got diagnosed, he would always say, I can't, I can't. And that's actually one of the points in this book. And it explains, when he says, I can't, I'm like, yes, you can. Yes, you can. But his mind really cannot process something as quickly as mine can. And they actually recommend like counting to 10 or 15 and then repeating something again. That way it kind of gives them a chance to process things. So these are the kind of like the two non-doTERRA related items that I have. And then one big one that I actually love, and I always recommend it to anybody who is using essential oils. I kind of call this the Essential Oil Bible, but it is the Essential Life book. And it literally, I mean, this stays on my kitchen counter, and I reach for this thing all the time. And there is actually a protocol in here for life on the spectrum that I am going to go over later that that is really good. So those are the resources I dove into when I first found out about his diagnosis.
Okay. Great, thanks. So what are some of the things that that you're dealing with, especially with him? Just kind of give us what are the things that he struggles with that have been hard for you to find solutions for?
He's very smart. And so I'm thankful that he can talk to us and express things. One thing, I wouldn't say one, like two things that he struggles with almost on a daily basis is his behavioral and his social interactions. It's like he has no filter, and he just says whatever he wants without realizing what he's saying. And a lot of kids are like that, but it's just like really no filter. And when we go somewhere and he's having a particularly like fun time, I have to constantly remind him, I'll say, hey, I utilize a timer almost everywhere we go. And I'm like, hey, I'm setting the timer for 30 minutes. Hey, you have 20 minutes. Hey, you have 15. And when the timer goes off, sometimes it works that he's like, okay, it's time to go. And sometimes it's just a complete meltdown where it's not a temper tantrum, but it's more of a like, I don't understand why we have to leave. Like, he doesn't understand that we have to go home. Like, he just wants to stay and do this because he's having fun. And that's where we're struggling right now, is his behavioral and his social interactions. And that is something that we're hoping, we just enrolled him in school. So we're hoping that will help with that. And he's doing really well so far, and I'm thankful for that. But that is, those two areas, the behavioral and the social, are what we're working on right now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and I have a daughter who she's not been diagnosed with anything, my Olivia, but she deals with some PTSD from a car accident. And so in a lot of ways, we know with kids on the spectrum and kids that deal with anything that in their bodies and in their brains, whether it's a nervous system problem or synapses, whatever is going on in there, they respond in that way where their emotions kind of can explode. They don't have that control of it. I know Olivia has a hard time, like Gideon, with transitions, right? The transition from leaving one place to the other, transition from dinner to bedtime is hard for us sometimes, and their little emotions just kind of fly out of their bodies, and they have a hard time it's like they don't have the ability to bring that back down themselves.
Yes, they definitely need our help to get back on the level. And I'll give you an example. We went to visit Kima Boardwalk a couple of months ago, and we've only been there once, and he had the most amazing time. We were there for like 5 hours, And all the kiddos were like red-faced because it was hot. And so we explained to him that it was time to leave. And he immediately went into meltdown and started screaming. And I'm not talking about like a child scream. I'm talking about a over-the-top, ear-piercing, can break glass scream. And, I immediately, one way I do this, I immediately put my arms around him and just hugged him really tight. And I got close to his ear and I started shushing him. And I started just telling him, it's okay, we're leaving, it's okay. And so we escorted him to the car. And my husband and I started talking about it. I was like, if I had heard that scream across a parking lot or something, I would think a child was getting kidnapped or being hurt.
Yeah.
And luckily, nobody really came up to us. We haven't been in a situation like that where somebody has come up to us and said, hey, what are you doing to this child, or anything like that. I do have friends, and I've heard stories of, people coming up to them and questioning if they're their parents or if they're taking this child. And so really learning how to get them to cope. And I'm going to go into that, getting them to cope with their emotions and how to handle them is really important, especially when you're out and about in public places.
Yes. Yeah. And what's so great about, that we have, both you and I have found such benefit from helping our kids come down from that with the, the pressure, the hugging, those kinds of things. But that in combination with the oils, I don't know about you, Angel, but it's kind of been a magical thing for us.
Yeah.
As far as really supporting the kids being able to come down, and even sometimes preventing staying in front of those kinds of meltdowns. Because I don't know if anyone else has dealt with this on this call, but doing that in public is really rough.
Yeah.
So I love that we have these things that work so beautifully with our emotions, but also work on the cellular and a brain level, right? We've got these oils that have sesquiterpenes and monoterpenes and all of these things that actually have the ability to affect our brain and really help our children, and of course help ourselves too in those situations. We need to bring it around too. And so Angel, tell us a little bit about your daily routine with giving and some of the things that you do and some of the oils and the products that you're using.
Okay. Like I said, in the Essential Life book, there is it's right here. There is an autism protocol, and we follow this almost to a T every single day. And of course, it talks about gut health. And that's another thing that I'll go into later. But one thing I started doing was eliminating things from his diet and seeing what kind of reactions he had when I started to introduce things back in. So this protocol has a daily detox, and it's a blend of rosemary and wild orange. And just an FYI, I carry this with me everywhere I go, and it literally has all the oils that I'm going to talk about. I made roller bottles of them and put little labels on them, so that way I have them. I'll pull them out, but one of them is for security, for soothing nerves. The detox one is, we put this on every night, and I just actually filled this up today because we use it 2 times a day. But the detox blend is great because obviously we need to detox our bodies almost on a daily basis. And all of my kiddos take the children's supplements. And I love them. I remember when I was at convention last year and they rolled out the PB Assist. I was I literally almost jumped out of my seat. I was so excited because I remember researching, my goodness, I need something for his gut health. And he doesn't take these, the doTERRA, he doesn't swallow pills. He doesn't like that. And so when they announced the PB Assist Junior, which is all about probiotic health, I was really excited about it. And I remember when I came home and I showed it to him and I described it to him as a pixie stick, like they told us at convention. he thinks it's candy now. So every morning he wakes up and he's like, can I have my pixie stick? And I'm like, sure, you can have candy in the morning, no problem. But all my children take the PB Assist, and they also take the A to Z Chewable, which is the children's multivitamin. And then Gideon also takes the IQ Mega, which is the fish oil. And that, I think, is really key in all of this, in all of the supplements, because the fish oil is really big on brain function, the concentration, and just the nerve cell functions. I add 1 drop of vetiver to it, and so every morning when he takes it, every morning and night when he takes it, I shake it up. That way, it's not just sitting at the top. So I shake it up, and he takes that twice a day, and morning and night according to the protocol. And then one thing that I really love that I just started him on this year was the DDR Prime. I had that oil for like a year, and I had been taking it internally, and I never really, I just heard people were like, this is great, you should take it. I'm like, okay, I'll take it. And I started seeing the benefits of myself, just overall, just how I was feeling. And then I read in this book that DDR Prime is really just helping repair what's messed up in your body. It protects your cells against free radicals in the environment. And so he gets that. He doesn't take it internally yet, but he does get that on the Abby, I'm gonna mess this up, but what's it called? The
Occipital.
Yes. I always mess that up, but he gets that all the time, and the book recommends up to 5 times a day. And so I literally just tell him, go to the pouch, grab a DDR Prime, and he gets it, he unrolls it, and he knows exactly where to put it. Mm-hmm. And so I do that all the time. And then I think I'll go into that later, but there's also some emotional support to the protocol daily, which will vary according to what mood he's in, because he's never in the same mood every day as any kid is. But in terms of the overall health of his body, I highly recommend the children's supplements along with the DDR Prime. And I forgot to mention I also give him, I think I brought it in here, the GX Assist. And like I said, he doesn't take soft gels, but what I've been doing is just this little one. I poke a hole in it, and I add it to a very, very, very sweet smoothie. So usually I add it to a fruit smoothie for him. So he takes these 1 a day to help with that. And he's never been, I'm going to use language, but he's never been constipated. Mm-hmm. He has regular bowel movements. Most children I know who are on the spectrum have a hard time with that. And so I'm very thankful that he doesn't, even though his diet isn't 100%, but I'll get into that later.
Yeah. So Angel, has he ever, because I know I've worked with some children that they, are very sensory. So they struggle with that. And the smells can be overwhelming for them. And they don't like the feel of things, or they're just very particular. Has he ever been like that with the oils?
He was at the beginning. One oil he did not like, and I was very surprised, was frankincense. I was like, why don't you like frankincense? I was so sad. But so I just started adding it slowly to different things. And I was making something the other day that called for frankincense, and he picked it up and he read it, and he just opened it and he was like, ooh, this smells good. I'm like, yes, you can start using it by itself. And so, yes, luckily everything that I've used on him so far he hasn't had an issue with it. Now he does, like, if something smells like really, really bad, like, I have one in diapers, so he'll tell me, Mommy, Jubilee stinks, and I'm like, okay, and he won't, he will get upset if he smells something bad. Mm-hmm. But then that's usually when I say, well, do you want an oil, or go grab our room spray? And we have, right now, I like peppermint and spearmint, mm-hmm. But since we're going to transition into fall, I'm pretty sure I'm going to make a new one. So, and I let him
Yeah.
help me make stuff. So that way, if I do decide to diffuse something or spray something, I know he likes it,
Mhm.
because he does get upset if something doesn't smell right. So yeah.
I do like to recommend that children like that are very sensitive to that they put the oils on the feet and put
Yes.
the socks, just to
Yes.
get them initially used to the application of the oil. Um, but that way it's still supporting the body, but they're not overwhelmed by that smell. And then, like you said, Angel, letting them pick out, setting out, we'll get into this a little later, but we have, specific oils that are really good for, you know, children on the spectrum, and
Mhm.
letting them from that list, letting them decide what feels good for them right now, what smells good to them right now, because you want them to have a really good positive experience at the get-go.
Yes. And I would also say, don't force it on them. Like, if you notice, my son really likes roller bottles. He likes to be tickled a lot. He just likes that. I think it's just something about the nerves and the sensory feel of it. Um, Most kids don't like. Some kids don't like that on the spectrum. They don't like to be touched at all. So so I would gradually introduce it. If you notice they're kind of backing away from it, that's okay. Just try, at least try it every once in a while, and never force something on them, because you don't want them to have a negative, like, picture. Oh, mommy's bringing out the oils, I don't want them. So I always tell him when he's eating, I was like, you have to try it, but you don't have to eat it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, you have to try it first, and then if you want something else, like, and normally he'll try it and he'll say it's good and he'll eat it.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a couple of times where he hasn't, but just know that don't ever try to force something on a child that's on the spectrum, because you don't want them to have a negative experience with it.
Yeah, yeah. Good point. All right, so let's talk about those oils. What are some
Mhm.
of the ones that really support him?
Okay, well, like I said, this is coming from the Essential Life book, and it's all listed in emotional support. I utilize tonight. I'm utilizing the Emotions and Essential Oils book, because some of the oils that I'm going to talk to you about, you're going to be like, "What? That doesn't sound right." But when you hear the emotional side of it, you're going to be like, "Oh wow, I never thought of it that way." Um, so the first one I actually like, and I tried it on myself the other day. I never really thought to do that. Um, is the oil for inflexibility. So just one thing about kids on the spectrum, they love routine. And if I tell my son, "Oh, we're going to do this," and the weather changes and it starts raining, and I say, "Oh, we can't do this today," it's like the world ended. And so the oil for inflexibility, they list cypress, oregano, and wintergreen. He actually picked out wintergreen, and it's the oil of surrender. So it helps the strong-willed individual in letting go of the need to know things, and the need to be in the know and to be right.
Mm.
So so anytime a change is like that, I have to, I usually sit him down. We utilize aroma touch in our home, specifically the hand technique. If you don't know that, it's literally, it takes like a couple of minutes on a child. He really likes the deep pressure on his fingers. So
Oh.
normally I'll sit down with the wintergreen, and I'll roll it on his hand, and then just start talking to him while I'm doing that. And I'm like, "Okay, son." I was like, "What's the weather look like today?" And he's like, "Oh, well, it's raining." "Okay, well, do you think we can go do this today?" And he's like, "No, mommy, we'll get wet." So really, don't use the oil and then tell him, "Oh, well, we can't go anywhere," because I've noticed I did that a couple of times and that just didn't work. So you really want to try to incorporate the oils and using them when you're telling them that routine is changing. Um, but I loved wintergreen because my routine changed when I sent my son to school this week.
Mm.
And I was very emotional about it and just up and down about it. And I'm glad I did, because he seems to be having a good time. And so I actually have it, like, I wear this little diffuser necklace all the time. And so it's been in here all week, and I've been really enjoying it. Um, the next they list is oils to lift mood and instill courage. And Abby, I think this is one of your favorites. This juniper berry,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the oil of the night.
Mm-hmm.
And it assists those who fear the dark or unknown aspect of themselves. So instead of hiding from what they do not understand, it encourages them to face their fears. And I always wonder, I don't know if you see those videos on Facebook. I always wonder, like I tell my husband, I wish I knew what he was thinking. I wish I could see inside his mind and just see what he sees, because it has to be really scary for him to just have meltdowns, for him to be, I mean, he is friendly, but he's also sometimes cautious.
Mm-hmm.
He wanders, but when he does, he knows when to stop, like danger. So I just want to know what he's thinking, and that frustrates me that I can't. And so, so Juniper Berry, he's really been liking it so far. I actually started preparing him over the weekend using that when I told him he was going to be starting school, because he was like, "No, mommy, I don't want to go to school," because I was homeschooling him here at home. And so I started, utilizing that on the bottom of his feet every night since last Wednesday, I think. And so I think it's just been helping him prepare for the unknown, what's school going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
And also, my other son, I have a little one. Deacon is 3. No, he's 2. Oh my gosh, I'm losing my mind. He's 3. He's been waking up in the middle of the night, and I don't think it's night terrors, but he's just been having a hard time sleeping. And so when he does wake up in the middle of the night, I like that I can just grab the roller, take it in the room, and I literally he likes me to rub his head. So I literally just like put some on my hand, like rub it on my hand and just sit there and rub his head, and he'll fall asleep. And I'm very thankful that I can use it on him also.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next one that I actually did not know this about is the oil lime. It can be used for overstimulation.
Mm-hmm.
So if your child is just going, 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 and they're just bouncing off the walls and, going all over the place, this is the oil to break out and to say, here, let's try this. And it's the oil to have zest for life. And so it's an elevating oil when when he's feeling discouraged or grieving, but it's also an oil to be grateful for the gift of life. And I've always told him, every night when I put him to bed, I always tell him, I love the way God made you.
Mm-hmm.
I've been telling him that since I don't even remember. And I tell all my kids that I love the way God made you. And so whenever he's just feeling overstimulated, and I can tell, like sometimes he's bouncing off the wall, sometimes he's just sitting there really contemplating something, and he has this look on his face. I tell him, I was like, go grab your lime. And he knows to hold out his finger, and I roll it on his finger, and he will I've taught him to put it to the roof of his mouth.
Oh.
And sometimes if he doesn't want to do that, I try not to put it in places where, because lime is a photosensitive or phototoxic oil. So I try to tell him to rub it on the bottom of his feet, because normally when he's not home, or when he's at home, he's usually running around without socks or something. So I usually tell him to put it on the bottom of his feet. If I know we're not going anywhere, then I have him put it behind his neck, or he has a medical ID bracelet. So sometimes I'll put a drop on his ID bracelet while he's wearing it when we're out in public. So that's another way to utilize that. Diffuser jewelry for kids are awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, especially, he didn't like a necklace. I bought him a Batman diffuser necklace, and he didn't like it because I don't think he liked the feel of it around his neck. But he likes his medical ID tag, so I use that to diffuse the bracelet, to diffuse the oils that he wears to school. But I didn't know that about lime. When I heard that lime was used for overstimulation, I thought that was pretty awesome, because we use lime in our water. We know lime is a great oil to cook with, but I did not use that. Sometimes I take out the lime and put a drop on my finger and put it in my mouth. It's an amazing oil to utilize. So patchouli. I'm not a big fan of patchouli, but he is. He really, really likes it. And I've noticed that when I wear Whisper, which is one of the women's, I call it like the women's perfume because I really think it smells like perfume. I noticed that he comes up to me and he'll try to sniff me, which is kind of weird, but it's kind of cute at the same time. And he's like, "Mom, you smell good." I'm like, "Thanks." But patchouli is a really good oil to use if they're feeling agitated. And patchouli is the oil of physicality. So it assists individuals in being fully present in their bodies. And it's also a very grounding and stabilizing oil. So when he is having the hard moments, sometimes if I, almost every other night, I go out to do my mom thing and have some time away. Sometimes he gets upset because I have to leave. And so I'll ask him, well, what oil do you want to use? What oil do you want me to massage you with before I leave? And normally, if he's agitated, he'll say patchouli.
Mm.
And he's been accustomed to kind of know because he loves to read labels. He'll come up and say, "Mom, I want this and this and this."
Mm.
So normally, before I leave, he's like, "Mom, can we do patchouli?" And I'm like, "Sure." So he'll sit down. I'll do a quick little massage, and then I go and he's okay, and he's asleep by the time I get back home.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really good oil to utilize if you're feeling agitated. Now this X oil, I think it's Gideon's spirit oil, seriously, because I've had it and I've never utilized it for him, and it's an oil to soothe nerves and to help with excessive reactions, and that's Roman chamomile. And he calls it soothe. I don't know why he calls it soothe, but he calls it soothe. And it's this oil of spiritual purpose. So it supports an individual in discovering and living their true life purpose.
Mm.
And isn't that what we want? I mean, that's what I want for for him. I mean, I always wonder every day what he will be like as an adult. Will he be living with us for the rest of his life? I hope not. I hope he's able to go out and to support himself and to hopefully get married and have kids and all that stuff. But this oil, the fact that he asks for it, it just melts my heart because I don't know what it is about it. I love using it for myself at night. And when I saw it outlined in the book with the protocol, I was just like, I never thought to even utilize it. And I never really studied emotions and essential oils until I think until last year. I bought this book exactly last year at convention, and I started reading it, and my mind just got blown away about it. But yeah, look, I've had this like a week, and you can tell that he just loves using it. I mean, I filled it up on Monday. I mean, every time he's like, "Mom, I want Soothe," and I'm like, "That's fine. If you want to use it, use it." I mean, and I love smelling him with it. It's
Mm-hmm.
a really great oil to utilize. So next, we're going to talk about security. And the two oils that the book recommends are On Guard and Terra Shield.
Mm.
When I first read that, I was blown away. I was like, why would we use On Guard and Terra Shield? I was like, okay. I was like, immune boosting oil. Okay, I understand that. Terra Shield, there's no bugs around. Like, I was like, why would we use Terra Shield? Well, we all know On Guard is the protective blend. And so it shields individuals from bacteria, mold, and viruses. We know that. We know it works. We know it does its job. But it extends beyond that in warding off negative influences. And it helps strengthens the inner self. And I was just blown away by that. I did not know that On Guard would have an emotional side. And that is just amazing because when I sent him off to school, my prayer was that, or like my fear, first of all, my fear was that bully. I don't want him to get bullied for being different. I don't want him to get bullied for, just being who he is he's this outgoing, loving individual. And so I've been using On Guard on him, not just for the immune boosting properties because he is around 30, 40 other kids, but because you want to ward off all those negative influences that are constantly coming at them 24/7. Like I said, we don't know what they're thinking. And so, when we first moved here, I remember going to the park here in the neighborhood, and somebody called him a crybaby because he was having a hard time leaving. And this child looked at me and he's like, he's a crybaby. And I'm like, well, he's having a hard time leaving. And then I've had somebody call him weird. And I'm like, that just, it breaks my heart. And luckily, like, I feel like he doesn't see sin. I feel like he sees the positive in everybody, which is such a beautiful thing, for children on the spectrum, because they see life in a whole different meaning, a whole different view. And so when something negative does come at them, a lot of the times they don't even know it. A lot of the times they kind of just shrug it off. Or, one question I've been asking Gideon since he's been coming back from school is, has anybody been mean to you? And he's like, no. And I'm like, oh, well, who's been nice to you? And he'll start listing all of these individuals, and he's like, Mom, this little boy liked my backpack. And I'm like, oh, that's great. So asking them questions like that is really good. But that On Guard blend, I'm thankful that it's an oil of protection. And Terra Shield, we know, is the repellent blend. And so it was formulated as an insect repellent, but it helps individuals stay calm in the face of danger or attack, helping them feel safe. And that's what we want. We want them to just feel safe in the environment that they're in, and the environment that they see. Again, some kids can see tunnel vision while some kids see the whole picture. And that can be very overwhelming and scary. But those are the oils listed in the Essential Life book. Other oils that I use at other times, I really, 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 really love Melissa. It's one of those oils that I hoard because it is so precious. And so it's like my emergency oil that I break out if I really, really, really need it. And that's just another beautiful oil to have that he also likes. But I don't let him open it, and just because he'll just start lathering it on, and I'm like, it's like we gotta make this last. Because if you don't know, Melissa is a pricey oil. And I think I bought it like with my LRP points or something. But that's another oil that's not listed that I utilize with him. It's just very calming. And sometimes I wonder if he deals with hard emotions. Like, he's only 5, but sometimes I wonder if he'll be depressed or something. So having that is a really big blessing in our family, and to me too.
Yeah. What about lavender, Angel? Because I know some children work really well with lavender. What's been your experience with lavender?
Gideon has the opposite effect when it comes to lavender. I try to not diffuse it and to kind of steer clear from blends that have it. Surprisingly, he does okay with Serenity, but if it's just lavender on its own, I see he tends to get worked up. While it has calming effects, I notice that it gets him kind of riled up, and so I don't use it on him that often. But like I said, I think our Ouchie spray has lavender in it, but that's just utilized when they have like a cut or something, or a scrape. Let me think. I do diffuse Serenity at night, but I also add more vetiver to that, so that could be like a counter there. And even the roller bottle that I rub on his feet at night that has Serenity in it, I also add more vetiver. So, but yeah, I don't use lavender on him.
Yeah. Yeah. And some kids do have that opposite effect. That's why that's why we're so grateful there's a lot of different oils out there, because we all have different body chemistries, and some children on the spectrum work beautifully with lavender, and like Gideon's some, it makes them super hyped up.
Yeah.
So good to know. So what other therapies do you guys that helps you alongside all that you're doing with the supplements and the oils?
Well, Gideon goes to professional speech and occupational therapy twice a week, and that the speech alone has been helping him a lot. And the occupational therapy, that I wish I had the handout. I actually gave it to his teacher and forgot to print it tonight. But his occupational therapist gave me a handout called the 5 Bs of self-control. And we've been utilizing that here at home. And I gave it to his teacher. That way she can utilize it there at school if she needs it. But basically, it's just 5 little techniques that they use when they're feeling a little overwhelmed. The first one is called break, and you literally take your hands and cross them, and you just apply pressure. Like, I mean, you see my muscles tensing and then loosening. I have him do this about sometimes if you do this if they're just like overstimulated, and I'll look at him and I'll say break, and he'll stop and he'll put his hands up and he'll start doing it, and I'll go, okay, give me 5 breaks or give me 10. Sometimes we'll make a game of it, and I'll be like, can you squeeze real tight? Okay, and let go. Can you squeeze real tight? So that's a break. And then there's another one called brain, where he takes his fingers, he overlaps them, and he pushes this down on his head, and he applies pressure on his head. And then he'll let go, and then he'll apply pressure on the head. And these are all really good proprioceptive. That's a big word. It just basically means pressure. But these are good proprioceptive things to do when they need that. Sometimes like a hug. This is the next one. It's called bear, and they literally just cross your arms and they give themselves a hug to give them that tension. And then so it's break, brain, bear, and then when you do brain, they also recommend like going around the face and just ending with this, because sometimes when you work on one system, you have to do the other ones. And oh my gosh, my mind is blanking on the other ones, but I'm going to have to post the handout. It's free. If you just Google the 5 Bs of self-control, it's a free printout that you can get. And it's really, really good to have. And Gideon also takes self-defense classes. We thought about putting him in karate and stuff like that, just because my husband did that as a child. But both my husband and I take self-defense classes, and so we really wanted Gideon to learn that, because they're anti-bully and how to stand up. So they're anti-bullying, but they're also, if he sees a situation, what should he do? And so he goes to private training once a week, and then one of our goals was for him to be in the big class where there's like 30 or 50 kids, and he just started that couple of weeks ago. So I was really excited. I was so proud of him, just seeing him sit there and listen to the instructors and actually engage in the class was really, really awesome. But they do lots of burpees. I know Abby knows what a burpee is. I don't know if anybody knows what a burpee is, but so that's also one of our discipline tools for him. Is if he's just being downright just disobedient, I'll tell him, hey, I was like, give me 5 burpees, and he'll do burpees. And I'm like, do you want to do more? And he usually says no, because he doesn't like burpees. And then wall push-ups, where, you go up to a wall and you just literally go down, and then you push yourself up, and you go down and you push yourself up. Those are big, what they call heavy work activities. We do lots of that. When we first started occupational therapy, there was something called the Wahlberger protocol, which is, it's called brushing therapy. And it's literally this, I wish I had it, but I got rid of it because this is one thing he did not like. So they didn't want me to push it on him. But it's almost like it's like a dog comb, or like, where it has those plastic bristles, those fine plastic bristles that almost feel like teeth, So you would have to go and like, you start at the bottom of his feet, and you literally do like deep pressure brushing on the feet, and all the while, it reminds me of the Roma touch, all the while maintaining contact. So if you're moving the brush to a different position, you had to keep one hand on them, and you move up to the legs and you start brushing them, to where eventually you got up to the arm and you were brushing their arm, and then you would brush their back, and then you would end with 5 squeeze. 5 squeezes. He did not like that. I don't know if it was the teeth on the body, but he did not like that, so we stopped that immediately. But there are other children on the spectrum who have benefited from that, so I wanted to make sure that I recommended that. Also, we do what's called a sensory diet. It's not food. It is just different activities throughout the day when he was home. Now he's at school, but different activities throughout the day to address each different sensory systems. And we all know we have sight, smell, hearing, all that, but there's also these big talk terms. I call them that. Proprioceptive, tactile, visual, auditory, vestibular, and oral. Gideon used to be a really big oral person. Anywhere we would go, he would literally like lick things, and it was so disgusting. I would carry my On Guard spray and like spray his mouth. But he got over that pretty quickly. But I didn't know how to handle that, so he didn't do. There's oral like teething stuff, and he didn't like that. So I immediately just told him, you can't be licking things. And so, but I got this book at Barnes and Noble. It's called Everyday Games for Sensory Processing Disorder, and in here it literally lays out different games to play for the different systems. And so I've bookmarked some of our favorite ones, but you know, for the visual system, you know, you can go on a treasure hunt. One of the fun ones that we like to do is we take different sized pillows and we lay them on the floor, and then they have to hop over them. And the kids love that. They say, who can hop the farthest, or who can hop the, you know, the shortest, or whatever, who can, you know. And so they literally just line up pillows and jump over them. Sometimes they'll stack them up and see how high they can jump. That's really good for the body to get that heavy work in. This was a really, really good book, and we utilize sensory diets here at home. And again, I mean, if sometimes I'll tell him, hey, go run laps on the sidewalk. I mean, that's good too. I know my kid likes to be outside a lot, and rain or shine, 100 degrees or, you know, cold, he loves to be outside. He's an outdoor kid. And so we go to when he was at home, I think we went to the park almost every day, and just for like 30, 45 minutes to an hour, just to let him run and climb and slide. But definitely see what your child likes and how you can support them in that. There are some games in here that Gideon did not like. Like, he's not all about sitting still and doing like fine motor stuff. He gets that at occupational therapy. He's more like, I want to go and I want to run and I want to be loud and I want to have fun. So if you can get that book, I think it was like, yeah, it was like $12 or something like that. So you might even find it at Half Price Books. It's a really good book to have.
Cool, good, thank you. So talking more about the diet, what kinds of things have y'all had to change?
Well, he doesn't drink milk anymore. One of the things that the diet just seems to be our obstacle, because he is what I call a sensory eater. And he literally, our shopping list for him, and I say for him, but for the kids, because they all eat the same thing. I buy the same thing for them almost every week, which is good because I know how much it is and how much it's going to cost. But at the same time, I wish he would eat better. So I started implementing the rule, you know, you got to try it. You got to try it first. You got to eat it. He hated eggs. I don't know if it was like scrambled eggs. I don't know if it was the texture of it or the taste of it, but he hated it. And so when we implemented you need to try it, you need to put it in your mouth and you need to chew it. The first time he did that and then he spit it out. And we're like, okay, at least you tried it. And then over a couple of weeks, we started noticing he started eating them. And so that was really good, because our main concern is he getting enough protein? And so I started utilizing protein smoothies for him, sneaking in protein anywhere I can. If I make pancakes, I sneak in protein. But I bought this book on Amazon. Even though Gideon doesn't have ADHD, it's the ADHD and Autism Cookbook, and it is gluten-free, casein-free. So gluten-free and casein-free, which basically I think, Abby, is like no dairy, no things like that.
Right.
Yeah. And that's where we struggle with him because, like I said, he's a kid, but literally it's the same thing. Pizza, chicken nuggets. He loves veggie straws, pretzels. And it's really weird because some kids like crunchy things and not soft things. He's more, I don't know. He's like, he'll eat pizza. Pizza's not crunchy. I mean, he'll eat, he eats eggs now, and eggs aren't crunchy. So it really just depends. And so we're slowly starting to introduce different things. He doesn't like chicken. He won't eat chicken at all. Like, he won't touch it unless it's chicken nuggets. I tried to give him grilled chicken one time, like grilled chicken nuggets. He wouldn't eat it, even though I told him it was chicken nuggets. And he's like, no, it's not. It's not chicken nuggets. And I'm like, yeah, it is. It's just not the kind you usually eat. So anytime I do grocery shopping for him, I do try to get a gluten-free alternative to what he likes. And luckily, that stuff is there. It's readily available. Sometimes I used to make my own pizzas, nuggets, things like that. But as a mom of 4 and being so busy, sometimes you can't do that. So I'm thankful that there's some gluten-free options out there to utilize. I just didn't know where to look for them. And now I know where to look. But I would definitely read up on this. I've heard really good things. If you Google a casein-free, gluten-free diet, there's a lot of testimonies out there about parents who have changed their kids' diet and seen drastic improvements in terms of behavior. And so that's definitely one thing to try. But yeah, we kind of struggle with the diet.
Diet's hard.
Yeah.
I think no matter who you are, we all struggle with our children's diets and getting them to eat the right things. I always thought, I was doing really good, and I started my kids out eating all their vegetables and everything, and then they just get older, and then they go on veggie strike. So we all deal with that. I will say too that staying away from food dyes and things like that is a really important thing, especially for all children, but especially those on the spectrum, that really wreaks havoc on their system and creates a lot of behavior disturbances, even more so.
Yes, I've noticed that his behavior spikes when there's a lot of dye, especially red dye.
Yes.
There's red dye in something. He is definitely one hyper kiddo, and I am one freaked out mom. Yeah, definitely try to stay away from dyes.
So when you're a freaked out mom, Angel, what do you do?
Well, I always say this. I can be in a parenting webinar. I can be in something. I utilize a lot of balance. I really, really, really love balance. I joke and I call balance my go-to mommy oil. I mean, I love it, and it's just a really grounding. I'm just getting all mushy just thinking about it right now. I mean, do you see how I just calmed down when I mentioned balance? But I utilize
Sorry.
The dad.
I utilize a lot of balance here at the home, whether through diffusing it or diffusing it in a diffuser in a necklace on my wrist or something. I utilize a lot of balance. Elevation and Melissa, again, are also, those are my top 3 oils. But if I had to if I had to give my number 1 advice to any mom, just not a mom on the spectrum, to any mom, is to find time for yourself and to take care of yourself. It took me a long time to realize that. But you got to take care of yourself, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. You got to take care of yourself because you got all these other people to take care of at home. And the saying, if mama ain't happy, nobody happy. And so, I'm thankful that, my husband introduced me to this self-defense program that we're doing, because I fall in love with it, and that's where I go, I think, 3 times a week at night. And it's not only a time to get away from the kids, but it's time for me to do something that I love. And so, if whatever you like to do, I would definitely find something and make time to do it. I used to feel so guilty just having some time to myself, but it really is like food for my soul, like seriously. Um, whether it's, grabbing a cup of coffee and walking around a shopping center, or um, hanging. I love times with other moms, just without the kids, and just sitting around and just talking, not about kids, but just talking about other things like books, or what's been on the news or something. I mean, um, definitely try to find something for yourself, and then just make sure you communicate, whether you're a single mom, or you are married, or you're thriving, maybe you're a grandma or a grandparent or something. um, I am very thankful for the people in my life who are making a sacrifice um, to help me enjoy my time. My husband, we have a really awesome babysitter here in Houston that she babysits for us at least once a month, and then I meet with her. She's actually my instructor at self defense, and she lets me vent when I need a vent. And our parents are really, really, really great people, because they don't just take one of our kids, they take all 4 of our kids. And one child on the spectrum, and dealing with one child is rough, but dealing with all 4 of them is really, really a lot. We know it's a lot of work if we want to take a weekend away or something. And so if you can find good quality babysitter, definitely do that. And don't be afraid to ask for help, because we're a community, and we have kids to take care of. And I said, if we're not the best version of ourselves, then everything else kind of crumbles underneath, and we got to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves.
Mm-hmm. I love what you said in one of your posts about this webinar, Angel, that takes a village, right? It takes a village to raise kids and families, and we definitely need each other, and we need that community. So thank you so much, Angel, for just being here, being transparent, and opening up about your experience, because I know that there's a lot of people that need to hear that, and need to hear that kind of encouragement, and that you're living this out with 3 other little children at home, and that's just phenomenal. And y'all are doing a great job, and you're successful at what you're doing, and you're out there really helping people with this. So I thank you so much for that. If we have any questions, go ahead and type them in the chat box. And if not, we will say good night for tonight, and thank you for joining us. And if you have additional questions, you can post them in the event for this group, and Angel and I will both be checking that event. So anyways, we hope that you have a great night. And again, thanks for joining us. Good night, guys.
Good night.
Oh, sorry, we have one question. How do you know when your child is on the spectrum?
Okay. There are a lot of symptoms to look for. And the first time that I Googled, what is autism, and it listed all of these symptoms, I was like, this seems almost like a normal child behavior kind of things. But some of the things to look for, delayed speech. Again, I have a 3-year-old who's delayed speech, but he's not autistic. So, but delayed speech, just problems handling their emotions. Let me see. Hyperactivity. Sometimes hyperactivity can be ADHD or it can be on the spectrum. It really depends. Like I said, my child is hyperactive, but he is not ADHD. It's really weird. So that depends. Let me see. Developments. A lot of the times, if you go, I hate kind of recommending this, but if you go to the CDC website, they have development checklists on what milestones each child is supposed to hit at each age. And sometimes it might not be autism. Sometimes it just might be delays and things. But usually when there's like more than a certain amount of red flags, that's definitely something to check out. Um, and if you think you want to get your child evaluated, talk to your pediatrician first, and your pediatrician will recommend where to take your child. We got a recommendation to a psychologist, and the psychologist did a diagnosis on Gideon, and he was clinically diagnosed with autism. Yes, he was clinically diagnosed with autism. Yeah, but I just voiced my concerns with my pediatrician about anywhere we went. Oh, Gideon did a lot of this.
Mm-hmm.
Right here. He always walked around doing this.
Yeah.
And I thought because he didn't want to hear anything, but this can actually be sensory overload for
Yeah.
them. And this was a big one. And then also when he was little, he started doing this a lot. And this is called stimming. At first, we thought he was trying to play a guitar because he really likes watching your brother on Sunday at church, Abby, play the guitar. So we really thought that he was trying to play a guitar. But then he started doing this, like if he gets overstimulated, you'll see him do this. Or sometimes you'll see kids do this. Like it's called stimming, some type of flapping. That's another thing to look for. I'm trying to think what else Gideon did. But those were the two big things for us was this. And to tell you the truth, I had several family members tell us that we should get him evaluated. And for like, I think a year, we put it off because we were in denial. And then I had an aha moment where Gideon just did something. And I was like, okay, it was just like a light switch on. And I was like, I'm going to go do this. But any type of stimming, any type of sensory issues like this, some people say if they're overly emotional, but it's a child. Again, it's a child. Like we said, we just thought he was being a little boy. But I highly recommend talking to your pediatrician and just telling him. First, start off. I think he might have sensory issues, or they don't legally think. They don't call sensory processing disorder. They put it on the spectrum. Mm-hmm. So while your child is autistic, they really just have sensory issues. But like I said, the spectrum is broad. So definitely talk to your pediatrician about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and know too that, like Angel said, a lot of these things you would just think are normal kid things. I mean, all kids throw tantrums. Mm-hmm. All kids, have little quirks and do silly things and want to roll on the ground and, all those things. So after watching, the thing about it is that there's no harm in getting evaluated if you have a question. Right?
Right.
There's no harm in that. There's no reason not to if you thought maybe that was something, and your pediatrician or the person you go to for your health evaluations, they will be able to guide you and tell you exactly, either put you at ease with saying, no, this is really okay, or say, you know what, maybe that would be a good idea. Let's set you up with a psychologist. Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah. And like I said earlier in the very beginning, it's like Abby said, just get them evaluated. That way, and if you know, then you can figure out how to help them, how to support them. And I can tell you right off the bat that, like I said, we were in denial, and finally I was like, okay, let's get evaluated. So when they say, yes, he's on the spectrum, I was like, okay, just it was kind of a big sigh of relief, but I went literally through different stages of an emotional roller coaster. Like, I think I cried for days, and then I was very angry, and then I felt pity, and then it was just a whirlwind of emotions. And then finally, after a week, I was like, okay, I need to stop. I need to get off my pity train and just do something about it. And that's when when you know whether they are on the spectrum or not, at least you know, and at least you know where to go from there.
Mm-hmm.
And after they are diagnosed and you think, and they say, no, he's not on the spectrum, or he or she isn't on the spectrum, and you still think something may be wrong, then continue talking to your pediatrician. Don't say because he's diagnosed. Some kids get misdiagnosed, and so definitely be your child's advocate and get answers, just like you would with anything else.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Angel. Appreciate
Course.
that. Okay, good. I'm grateful that you guys hopped on and that this was helpful for you. We'll post the recording and share it with people that you think would really benefit from listening to this. I know it was a little lengthy, but I think that it was good. And a lot was shared that I think can be really helpful. So anyways, thank you again. And we're going to say good night. Bye, guys.
Good night.